The cold of the polished marble pressed against my face. A metallic taste. Blood filled my mouth. My wheelchair was tipped over beside me, a single wheel spinning silently in the stunned quiet. The 200 guests gathered at the Newport Harbor Grand Ballroom just stared. The entire room was a photograph. No one came to help me. They were all too transfixed by my sister. Brianna stood over me, a vision in her white engagement gown. She wasn't concerned. She was incandescent with rage. Her beautiful face was contorted into an ugly snarl, cracking her flawless makeup. "Get up, Serenity," she shrieked, her voice bouncing off the vaulted ceilings. "Stop this pathetic act for attention. You're ruining my aesthetic. Get up right now." My parents, Arthur and Lillian, were right behind her. They didn't glance at my split lip or my arm, which was twisted at an unnatural angle. They were scanning the guests, their faces masks of pure terror at the thought of a scene. I tried to push myself up, but my legs were just dead weight. They hadn't worked in 4 years. Brianna wanted them all to think I was a drama queen. She wanted them to believe I had thrown myself to the floor just to steal her moment. But I knew the truth, and somewhere, in the dark place where she lived, she knew it too. I didn't fall. Brianna pushed me. The ride to the Newport Harbor was dead silent. My father, Arthur, drove the black luxury sedan with his knuckles white on the steering wheel. My mother, Lillian, sat in the passenger seat, compulsively checking her reflection in the visor mirror. I was in the back, watching the world blur past my window. I wasn't in the family car, of course. I was in the clunky, retrofitted van they had bought secondhand 4 years ago. They loathed this van. It was an eyesore, they said. It hogged too much space in their 3-car garage, but it was the only way to get my wheelchair around without a major disassembly project. "Serenity," my mother said, not bothering to turn around. Her voice was like chipping ice. "Please try to at least look pleasant tonight. This is Brianna's moment. We don't need one of your moods." "I am not in a mood, Mom," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "You're already sighing," she retorted. "Just put a smile on. And for the love of God, keep that chair out of the way. The photographer is costing a fortune. We don't need tire marks all over the white carpets." I glanced down at my hands, still and pale in my lap. I was wearing an emerald green dress. It was plain, but I loved it because it was comfortable for long periods of sitting. I knew my mother detested it. She had wanted me in something long and flowing, like a sheet, so no one would be forced to acknowledge the legs that lay useless underneath. When we pulled up to the marina, the sun was melting into the Atlantic Ocean. It was a picture-perfect scene, but a tight knot of dread was coiling in my gut. The main entrance featured a sweeping staircase draped in a plush white carpet. My parents exited the car and glided toward it, looking like a king and queen, Arthur in his tailored tuxedo, Lillian in a gown of shimmering gold. They never waited for me. I hit the button on my key fob, and the van's ramp lowered with a loud mechanical groan. A young valet hurried over, his face a mixture of confusion and panic. "Miss?" "You can't leave this here," he stammered. "I need to get out," I told him. My father glanced back from the foot of the stairs, his expression pure annoyance. "Just go around back, Serenity. There is a ramp at the service entrance. Meet us inside." He turned away without another word, took my mother's arm, and they ascended the stairs, beaming at the arriving guests. I watched them go. I was their daughter, but in public, I was a problem to be managed. The valet looked mortified. "I can show you the way, miss," he offered. I followed him around the grand building. We passed the large dumpsters, which reeked of day-old fish and sour champagne. The accessible entrance was a scuffed, heavy steel door right next to the kitchen's loading bay. I had to navigate my chair over a patchwork of cracked asphalt. This was my life. The back door, the side path, the servant's route. After finally making my way through the bustling kitchen, dodging servers with trays of oysters, I emerged into the ballroom. It was breathtakingly opulent. Cascades of white orchids dripped from the ceiling. A string quartet played something soft and ethereal. The air was thick with the scent of wealth, expensive perfume, fresh flowers, and the salty breeze from the open terrace doors. I felt every single head turn toward me. It wasn't a warm welcome. It was the look you give a fly in your soup, a mix of pity and irritation. I wheeled myself toward the edge of the room, looking for a place to hide where I wouldn't be in the way. I saw faces I had known my entire life. Neighbors from the estate, my parents' business partners, people I had gone to school with. Mrs. Gable, a woman who used to give me cookies as a child, saw me approaching. She abruptly turned her back and began an animated conversation with her husband. Mr. Sterling, my father's golfing buddy, made direct eye contact, then immediately checked his watch and walked in the opposite direction. They didn't know what to say to the girl in the wheelchair, so they chose to say nothing, to pretend I wasn't there at all. Then I saw Brianna. She was standing by the bar, a champagne flute in hand, looking like a goddess. Her blonde hair was styled in perfect shimmering waves. Her white silk dress was a masterclass in understated elegance. She was a statue, something to be admired from a distance. She was laughing at something her friend Madison was saying. Then her eyes found me. Her smile evaporated. In its place was a flash of pure annoyance. She handed her glass to Madison and glided toward me. She didn't just walk, she flowed, every movement polished and deliberate. "You're late," she hissed, keeping her voice low so the nearby photographer wouldn't capture it. "I had to come through the kitchens," I said. "The ramp is out back." "Excuses," Brianna sniffed. She looked me up and down with disdain. "And what are you wearing? I told you to wear the silver dress." "It doesn't fit properly when I'm sitting," I explained. "It digs into my hips." "So?" Brianna rolled her eyes. "Beauty is pain, Serenity. Look at you. You look like a librarian. You're killing the whole aesthetic. I'm just here to support you, Brianna." "Then support me by staying out of the pictures," she snapped. "Go over there, by that column. And don't move until I tell you." She pointed to a shadowy corner behind a massive floral arrangement. It was where you would put the umbrellas on a rainy day. I moved my chair into the corner. I set the brakes. I sat there clutching my purse and watched the party from the sidelines. A few minutes later, Caleb arrived. Caleb Miller, Brianna's fiancé. He was one of those men who was so handsome it made you automatically trust him. He had warm, kind eyes and a disarming smile. Or at least he did before he got engaged to my sister. I watched him scan the crowd. He wasn't looking for Brianna. He was looking for me. When his gaze finally landed on me in my corner, his shoulders visibly slumped. The smile died. He looked tired. He looked like a man about to sign a contract he knew he shouldn't. He started to walk toward me, but Brianna intercepted him in a flash. She grabbed his arm, pulling him into a tight embrace and kissing his cheek for the camera. The flashbulb popped. Brianna beamed. Caleb managed to smile, but it was hollow. It didn't reach his eyes. Over Brianna's shoulder, he looked at me. He mouthed the words, "I am sorry." I looked away. I couldn't bear his pity. Caleb knew. He saw how my family treated me. He had witnessed the subtle jabs, the casual exclusion. In my darker moments, I sometimes wondered if he knew even more than that. But he was weak. He was marrying into the Davenport Hotel fortune. He was marrying the Golden Girl. He wasn't about to risk that for the broken sister in the corner. I sat in my corner for what felt like an eternity. Waiters bustled past me, never once offering a drink or an appetizer. I was both invisible and a spectacle. I could hear the whispers from a nearby table. Two of Brianna's friends from college. They were social media influencers who documented their perfect lives on their phones. "It is so tragic," one of them said. She didn't sound tragic, she sounded bored, having to wheel her around everywhere. I heard she might not even be paralyzed. The other one whispered conspiratorially. My hands clenched on the wheels of my chair. "No way," the first one gasped. "Seriously, my mom told me. She said the doctors could never find anything physically wrong with her spine. It is psychosomatic. It is all in her head." "That is so messed up. the friend giggled. She is just doing it for attention because Brianna is getting married. Totally. Look at her face. So miserable. She is just jealous. I felt a hot flush of shame creep up my neck. So this was the story my family was spinning. It was easier for them. If I was truly paralyzed, it was a tragedy. It was inconvenient. But if I was faking it for attention, then I was the villain. And they were the long-suffering saints for tolerating me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to roll over there and slap them with my medical files. I wanted to show them the surgical scars that ran down my back. But I didn't. I stayed quiet. I stayed in my corner. I was the flaw in their perfect room, the crack in the marble, the unwelcome reminder that awful things can happen, even to wealthy, beautiful people. The party didn't want me. My sister didn't want me. My parents didn't want me. And as I watched Caleb throw back another glass of whiskey, I realized he didn't want to see me either, because looking at me forced him to remember what he really was, a coward. To understand why I sat in that corner and absorbed the abuse, you need to understand my childhood. You have to know that the wheelchair was new, but the silence and the shame were very old. I wasn't born into a family, I was born into a corporation. The Davenport name was a brand. My father, Arthur, was a luxury hotel developer. His image was everything. He had to project success, stability, and flawless taste. My mother, Lillian, was the chief brand manager. She ran the charity boards, orchestrated the dinner parties, and curated every aspect of our public lives. And then there were the daughters. Brianna was born first. She was the flagship model. Blonde, beautiful, demanding, and born with a spotlight already on her. She was the star of every room before she could even form full sentences. I came along 2 years later, the quiet one. I had dark hair and dark eyes. I loved books. I loved to draw. I didn't like being the center of attention. From the very start, the roles were set. Brianna was the golden child. I was her built-in audience. Or worse, her scapegoat. I remember my 8th birthday. I had asked for a specific set of art supplies, a professional kit I had been dreaming of. We had a small family party. When it was time for gifts, my mother presented me with a huge, beautifully wrapped box. I tore it open. Inside was a video game console, a brand new, expensive console with a dozen games. "It is the one Brianna wanted," my mother exclaimed, clapping her hands. I looked at the console. It was the exact one Brianna had been begging for. "I wanted the art set," I said softly. "Don't be ungrateful, Serenity," my father grumbled from behind his newspaper. "That thing cost a fortune." "But I don't really like video games," I said. Brianna, who was 10, stomped over and snatched the console from the box. "I like it," she declared. "If she is just going to complain, I will take it." "What a wonderful idea, Brianna," my mother said, beaming at her. "You see, Serenity, your sister appreciates things. Why can't you be more like her?" Brianna walked off with my birthday present. I sat there with an empty box on my lap. I didn't cry. I had already learned that tears only made them angry. Crying was a form of manipulation in their eyes. That was the blueprint for our childhood. If a vase shattered, it was my fault. Serenity is so clumsy, my mother would sigh, ignoring the fact that Brianna had been kicking a soccer ball in the house. Brianna would just flash her wide, innocent eyes, and the case would be closed. If Brianna got a C on a test, the teacher was an idiot. My parents would schedule a meeting with the principal. If I got an A, it was what was expected. If I got an A-, I was slacking. "You're just not applying yourself, Serenity." They defended Brianna ferociously. She was their reflection. Her failures were their failures. I was just there, the background static. As we grew into teenagers, the cruelty became more refined. In high school, Brianna was the queen bee. She was mean, but she was popular. She spread rumors and destroyed social lives. One afternoon, I came home from school sobbing. Brianna had started a rumor that I cheated on a major exam. My teacher had pulled me aside, and I was facing suspension. I ran to my mother, desperate. She was arranging flowers in the foyer. She didn't look at me. "Oh, stop it, Serenity," she said. "Brianna was probably just joking. You have no sense of humor. You take everything far too seriously." "It wasn't a joke," I yelled. "I could be expelled." My father walked in. "Lower your voice," he commanded. "I have a migraine." "Serenity is being dramatic again," my mother informed him, "trying to get Brianna into trouble." My father fixed me with his cold stare. "You are so selfish, Serenity. Your sister has her final exams next week. She needs to be focused. Stop trying to sabotage her. Sabotage her." That was their favorite word for it. If I existed too loudly, I was sabotaging Brianna. If I had a need, I was stealing attention from Brianna. So I learned to shrink. I learned to become invisible. I learned that my feelings were invalid, my reality was wrong, and my pain was an inconvenience. Brianna learned a lesson too. She learned she was untouchable. She learned she could hurt people, and her parents would not only clean up the mess, but blame the victim. They created a monster, a beautiful, charming, terrifying monster, and I was her favorite toy because I was the only one who saw through the act, and she hated me for it. The crash, the one that put me in this chair, was just the final bloody chapter in a war I had been losing my entire life. But looking back, the years of emotional neglect hurt more than the crushed vertebrae. Bones can be set. You can learn to live with the physical limitations, but the deep, hollow feeling that your own parents prefer your abuser, that wound never really closes, it just festers. I remember being in the ICU right after the accident 4 years ago. I was terrified. I couldn't feel anything from the waist down. My parents came into the room. They looked exhausted, not sad, just tired. "How is Brianna?" I asked, my voice a raw whisper from the intubation tube. "She is a wreck," my mother said, fiddling with her diamond earrings. "She is out in the waiting room. She just can't bear to see you like this." "She's upset?" I asked, confused. "Of course she is," my father snapped. "This has been incredibly hard on her, Serenity. The police are asking all sorts of questions. It is putting a lot of stress on the family." "I can't feel my legs," I whispered. "Don't start with that," my mother said sharply. "The doctor said it is just swelling. You're in shock. You will be fine. Just don't make this a bigger deal than it has to be. Don't make it a big deal." I was paralyzed. My life as I knew it was over, and they were asking me to tone it down so Brianna wouldn't be stressed. That was the moment I understood. I didn't have parents. I had brand managers, and I was a liability they were desperately trying to contain. So at the engagement party, as I sat in the shadow of the floral arrangement, I wasn't surprised by how they were treating me. I wasn't surprised that Brianna felt entitled to push me around. She had been doing it for 25 years, and my parents had been her cheerleaders. But this night felt different. The air was electric. The whispers were louder. Brianna was on edge, drinking too fast, her laughter a little too shrill. She needed this night to be perfect. She needed the photos to be flawless. And there I was, the crippled sister in the corner, the blemish. I watched her from across the room. She was looking at me again. Her eyes narrowed. She was talking to my mother, gesturing in my direction. My mother nodded and gave a helpless shrug as if to say, "What can I do?" Brianna's jaw tightened. She handed her empty glass to a passing waiter. She smoothed down her perfect dress, and she started walking toward me. A cold dread washed over me. It wasn't the air conditioning. It was a primal instinct, the same one a rabbit feels when it sees the shadow of a hawk overhead. She was coming, and she wasn't coming to make small talk. I gripped the armrests of my chair. I took a steadying breath. Just get through the night, I told myself, just survive. But deep down, I knew. The performance was over. The party got louder as the evening wore on. The grand chandeliers dimmed, replaced by the soft glow of amber wall sconces. The string quartet transitioned from classical pieces to instrumental pop covers. Waiters wove through the crowd with trays of mini crab cakes and top-shelf scotch. I was still in my designated corner, an unwanted piece of furniture. My back was screaming. Sitting in a wheelchair for hours isn't like sitting in a comfy armchair. The pressure points become excruciating. My legs, though numb, would sometimes have muscle spasms. It was humiliating. I had to keep them strapped to the footrests to prevent them from jerking uncontrollably. I double-checked the straps. They were secure. I saw Brianna holding court in the center of the room, surrounded by her bridesmaids and adoring friends. They were a fortress of silk and hairspray, and they were looking right at me. Brianna whispered something to a tall blonde girl named Madison, Brianna's maid of honor. Madison was a lifestyle influencer who curated every second of her existence for her followers. She glanced at me, covered her mouth, and let out a little laugh. Then, they started walking my way. Not just Brianna, but her whole entourage. 5 of them, a pack of wolves in designer heels. My first instinct was to flee, to turn my chair and bolt through the service door, but I knew I couldn't. My mother would cause a scene, accusing me of ruining the flow of the party. So I sat there, a trapped animal. They stopped a few feet away, creating a semicircle around me. They stood just far enough to be intimidating, not close enough to be friendly. "Hey, Serenity," Madison said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness, though her eyes were chips of ice. "Having a good time?" "It is a beautiful party," I said, my voice sounding small and thin. "We were just talking about you," Madison continued, swirling the ice in her drink. "Brianna was telling us all about your situation." I looked at Brianna. She wore a tight, cruel little smile. "I was just telling them how brave you are, Serenity." "Yeah, so brave," another girl chimed in. She was discreetly filming me with her phone, holding it low. "But it is strange, isn't it? That the doctors never found a physical cause for the paralysis?" My stomach plummeted. "That is not true," I said. "My spinal cord was severed at the T11 vertebra. It is in the medical report." "Well, that is your story," Madison giggled. "But Brianna said the MRIs were inconclusive." "That is a lie," I said, my voice shaking as I looked directly at my sister. "Brianna, tell them that is a lie." Brianna just shrugged, taking a delicate sip of champagne. "I am just repeating what Mom told me, Serenity. She said the doctors think it could be mental. You know, a trauma response. It is called conversion disorder," the girl with the phone supplied, sounding like she had just Googled it, "or Munchausen's, where people pretend to be sick for attention." "I am not pretending," I said, my voice trembling. I gripped the wheels of my chair so hard my knuckles were white. "I can't walk. I haven't been able to walk for 4 years." "Oh, come on," Madison said, stepping closer and leaning down, invading my space. She smelled of expensive perfume and pure malice. "Just between us, you can feel your legs, can't you? You just love the sympathy. You love having your parents dote on you." "Get away from me," I said through gritted teeth. "Serenity," Brianna snapped. "Don't be rude to my guests. Madison is just trying to understand. It is confusing, Serenity. You were perfectly fine one day, and then after that little accident, you just decided you couldn't move." "I was thrown from a car, Brianna," I hissed. "The car you were driving?" The group fell silent for a beat. Brianna's face hardened. "We agreed not to talk about that," she said coldly. "We agreed to protect the family. But you always have to be the victim, don't you? You thrive on it. You love sitting in this chair, making everyone feel guilty." "I don't want anyone's guilt," I said. "I just want to be left alone." "But you're not alone, are you?" Madison laughed. "You're right here, center of attention. Look at you, the poor tragic little sister. It is just so pathetic." I scanned the room, desperately looking for an ally. I saw my mother by the dessert table. She was watching us. She saw the girls cornering me. She saw the distress on my face. She did nothing. She just turned her head and started a conversation with the caterer. She was allowing this to happen. Then I saw Caleb. He was only 10 feet away. He had heard every word. He heard them call me a liar. He heard them accuse me of faking my own paralysis. He stared down at his shoes. He took a long swallow from his drink. He remained silent. That silence was more painful than any insult. Caleb knew the truth. He had seen the medical bills. He had seen me in physical therapy, screaming through tears of pain and frustration. He knew, and he was letting them torture me because he was a coward, terrified of Brianna. "You know what I think," Brianna said, raising her voice so others could hear. "I think you're jealous. I am getting married. I am happy, and you can't stand it. So you have to bring your black cloud of drama here." "I haven't done anything," I whispered, tears stinging my eyes. I refused to let them fall. If I cried, they would win. "You're existing," Brianna said. "You're moping in that corner, bringing everyone down. It is selfish, Serenity. It is just so incredibly selfish." "Let's go, guys," Madison said, linking her arm with Brianna's. "She is killing the vibe. Let her pout." They turned and sauntered away, laughing amongst themselves. I could hear their parting shots. Imagine faking that for 4 years. She probably gets up and dances around her room at night. Total psycho. I sat there, trembling with a mixture of rage and humiliation. I felt exposed. I felt like every person in that room now believed their story. The seed of doubt had been planted. Now, whenever anyone looked at me, they wouldn't see a survivor. They would see a liar. I looked down at my legs. They were thin, the muscles atrophied from years of disuse. They didn't look like the legs of someone who danced at night. They looked like what they were, dead weight. But people believe what is most convenient, and my family had sold them a very convenient lie. Serenity isn't really disabled. She is just difficult. It absolved them of all guilt. It cast me as the villain. I wanted to go home. I reached for my phone to call an Uber. I didn't care about the van. I would crawl into a car if I had to. But before I could even unlock the screen, the music stopped. The band leader tapped his microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, could I have your attention, please? It is time for the formal family portraits. Could the Davenport family and the Miller family please gather on the main dais?" A spotlight illuminated a raised platform at the far end of the room, decorated with a backdrop of white roses. My mother materialized at my side. She grabbed the handles of my chair. "Put that phone away," she hissed. "It is time for pictures. I don't want to be in the picture," I said. "I am leaving." "You will do no such thing," she said, and began pushing my chair forcefully through the crowd. "You are not going to embarrass this family by running away. You will get up there, you will smile, and you will look happy." She parked me at the foot of the platform. The photographer, a fussy little man with a huge camera, directed the proceedings. Okay, parents in the back row, the happy couple in the middle, sister in the front. Arthur and Lillian arranged themselves on the platform, their fake smiles plastered on. Brianna and Caleb took the center. Brianna struck a pose, flaunting her ring. "Okay, sister," the photographer said, pointing at me. "Just roll yourself right there, front and center." I moved my chair into position. I felt like a fool. Everyone was standing, tall and elegant, and I was stuck at their waist level, a hunk of metal and rubber spoiling their perfect picture. "The chair is blocking my dress," Brianna complained, looking down at me with contempt. "Can you move to the side?" "He told me to go here," I said flatly. "Well, move," she snapped. I rolled a few feet to the left. "No, that looks weird," Brianna said. "You look like an afterthought." "I am an afterthought," I muttered under my breath. "Excuse me?" Brianna's eyes flashed with anger. "What did you just say? We're losing the light, people," the photographer called out. "Let's get this shot." Brianna looked from the photographer back to me. A strange, calculating look crossed her face. It was the look she always got right before she did something truly awful. "Actually," Brianna announced loudly, "I have a better idea. Serenity, stand up." The room went quiet. "What?" I asked, my blood running cold. "Stand up," she repeated, her voice bright and commanding. "For the photo, just for 1 minute. You can lean on the dais. You can lean on Caleb. Just stand up so we can look like a normal family for once." My parents said nothing. They just held their frozen mannequin smiles. "Brianna," I said, my voice shaking, "I can't stand up. You know I can't." "Oh, stop it," she laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. "Stop the act, Serenity. It is my engagement party. Just give me this one thing. Stop being so stubborn. It is not stubbornness." I cried out, my voice cracking. "I am paralyzed. You're lazy," Brianna shouted back, the mask of civility finally shattering. Her rage was spilling out for everyone to see. "You're a lazy, jealous brat, and you just want to ruin my pictures with that ugly chair. Brianna, maybe we should just," Caleb started to say. "Shut up, Caleb!" she screamed at him. She turned back to me, stalking down from the platform. She loomed over me. "Stand. Up." "I can't." "Yes, you can. You're just doing this to spite me." She reached down and grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. "Get up," she grunted, yanking on me. "Let go," I cried out. "You're hurting me. I'm helping you," she yelled. "I am helping you stop your pathetic lying." She pulled harder. My body was just dead weight. I began to slide out of the chair, but my legs wouldn't support me. They just buckled. "Brianna, stop," I screamed. But she was lost in her rage. She was on a mission to prove to everyone that if she just forced me hard enough, I would miraculously be cured. She let go of my arm and grabbed the back of my wheelchair. "If you won't stand, then you don't need this," she screamed, and then she shoved my wheelchair with all her strength. It wasn't a small push. She put her entire body into it, shoving the chair sideways. Everything went into slow motion. I felt the right wheel lift from the floor. I felt a moment of weightlessness. I saw the spinning chandeliers. I saw the shocked faces of the guests. I had no time to brace myself. My hands were caught on the armrests. Then, a sickening crash. I hit the marble floor. Hard. My head slammed against the tiles. The air was forced from my lungs. The wheelchair toppled over, its heavy frame crashing down on my legs. A towering pyramid of champagne flutes next to me shattered, raining down glass and sticky liquid. A blinding pain shot through my shoulder and head. I tasted blood. For a split second, there was absolute silence. Then a scream. But it wasn't a scream of concern for me. "My dress," Brianna shrieked. "You idiot! You got champagne all over my dress." I lay there dazed. The world was a spinning blur. I couldn't move. The heavy steel of the chair was pinning my hips. My cheek was pressed against the cold, wet floor. I looked up and saw a forest of feet in expensive shoes. No one moved. I saw my father's polished patent leather shoes step into my line of sight. He walked over to where I lay. He didn't bend down. He didn't ask if I was okay. He looked at the champagne soaking into the pristine white carpet. "For God's sake, Serenity," he muttered. "Look at this mess. This is going to cost a fortune to clean." "Dad," I whispered, "help me. Why did you have to fight her?" My mother's voice, thin and reedy, came from above. She sounded utterly exhausted. "Why couldn't you just try? Why do you always have to cause a scene?" "She pushed me," I choked out, the tears finally breaking free, mixing with the blood on my cheek. "She pushed me over." "She was trying to encourage you," my mother said dismissively, "and you threw a tantrum and hurled yourself on the floor. I couldn't believe it. I was lying in a pile of broken glass, bleeding, unable to free myself, and they were blaming me." Brianna was standing over me now. She wasn't looking at my injuries. She was frantically checking the hem of her gown for stains. "Get up, Serenity," she screamed, her voice echoing through the silent ballroom. "Stop faking for attention. You are ruining my aesthetic. Get up right now." I tried to shove the wheelchair off me, but I was too weak. The fall had jarred my shoulder. It felt dislocated. "Caleb," I whimpered. I saw him standing there, his face ashen. He looked like he was going to be sick. "Caleb, please," I begged. He took one step forward. "Don't you dare, Caleb," Brianna warned him. "If she wants to lie there like a toddler, let her. She can get herself up. It is time she learned a lesson." Caleb froze. He looked at me, lying in the wreckage. Then he looked at Brianna, and he stepped back. He chose her. He left me there. I closed my eyes. The humiliation was a physical pain, sharper than my throbbing shoulder. 200 people, my family, my neighbors, everyone I had ever known, all of them watching me bleed on the floor, and not one of them moved to help. I realized in that moment that to them, I wasn't a person. I was a piece of decor that had been knocked over. I lay there praying for the world to go black. I just wanted to pass out, to disappear. But then I heard a voice. A new voice. It wasn't loud, but it cut through the room like a surgeon's scalpel. "Don't touch her." The crowd parted. I opened my eyes. A woman in a sharp black pantsuit was walking toward me. She wasn't holding a drink. She was walking with a purpose that radiated authority. I knew her. It had been 4 years, but I would never forget her face. Dr. Sarah Jenkins. She was the trauma surgeon who had operated on me the night of the crash. She was the one who had gently told me I would never walk again. And she was the only person in that entire hospital who had ever looked at me with genuine kindness. She walked straight through the circle of gawking guests. She looked at Brianna. She looked at my parents. Her expression was one of terrifying calm. She knelt beside me, not caring about the champagne or broken glass. She put a gentle hand on my shoulder. "Serenity," she said softly. "Don't move your neck. I am here." She looked up at Brianna. "You," Dr. Jenkins said, her voice low but carrying an unmistakable threat. "Step back. Before I have you arrested for assault." Brianna let out a nervous laugh. "Excuse me? Who do you think you are?" "This is my sister. She is just being dramatic." "I am her surgeon," Dr. Jenkins said, standing up slowly and positioning herself between me and my family. "And I have seen the MRI of her spinal column. If you think this is drama, you are either dangerously delusional or a psychopath." The room went dead silent. Dr. Jenkins scanned the crowd. "Call 911, she commanded. "Now." No one questioned her. For the first time all night, I felt a flicker of safety. I looked at Brianna. The color had drained from her face. She was finally realizing she had pushed too far. And I realized something too. Lying there on the cold, hard floor, I knew that my family was finished. They had broken me for the very last time. The war was over. And thanks to Dr. Jenkins, the reckoning was about to begin. The silence in the grand ballroom was thick and suffocating. It felt like all the air had been vacuumed out. I was still on the floor, my shoulder a hot, searing knot of pain. I knew the feeling well. It was dislocated. Dr. Sarah Jenkins was kneeling by my side, her hands gentle but efficient as she checked my pulse and pupils, her fingers carefully probing my neck. "Serenity, can you hear me?" she asked, her voice a beacon of calm in the chaos of my world. "Yes," I whispered. "My shoulder. It hurts." "I know," she said. "We're not going to move you until the paramedics arrive. Just try to breathe." "Oh, for God's sake," Brianna snapped, standing over us with her hands on her hips. "She is fine. Look at her. She is blinking and talking. She is just milking this for all it is worth. Get up, Serenity." Dr. Jenkins didn't look up right away. She finished her assessment of my spine. Then she rose slowly to her full height. In her black suit, she looked like an avenging angel. She turned to face my sister. "You're Brianna, correct?" Dr. Jenkins asked. "Yes," Brianna said, lifting her chin defiantly. "And this is my party, which you are ruining." "You just assaulted a disabled person," Dr. Jenkins stated, her voice quiet but as hard as granite. "You pushed a woman in a wheelchair onto a marble floor. Do you have any concept of the damage you could have caused?" "She isn't disabled," Brianna shrieked, looking desperately at the crowd, willing them to believe her. "She is a liar. Tell them, Mom, tell them she is faking." My mother, Lillian, stepped forward, wringing her hands nervously. "Doctor Jenkins, is it? We appreciate your concern, but this is a private family matter. Serenity has psychological issues, a history of this kind of behavior." "Behavior," Dr. Jenkins repeated the word as if it tasted foul. She gave my mother a look of pure, unadulterated disgust. "I am the doctor," she said, her voice ringing with authority. "I am the trauma surgeon who operated on Serenity 4 years ago. I am the one who cut her back open. I am the one who saw her spine with my own eyes." She turned to the silent, watching crowd. "Let me be perfectly clear," Dr. Jenkins announced, her voice projecting so that everyone could hear. "Serenity has a complete transection of the spinal cord at the thoracic 11 vertebra." "That is just medical jargon," Brianna scoffed. "It doesn't mean anything." "It means her spinal cord was cut in half," Dr. Jenkins said, making a sharp chopping motion with her hand. "It is severed. There is no longer a connection between her brain and her legs. It is physically impossible for her to walk. She could not be faking this if she wanted to. If you were to stab her in the leg right now, she would not feel a thing." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. I saw people covering their mouths in horror. "But," Brianna stammered, "but Mom said—" "Your mother lied," Dr. Jenkins said, her gaze locking onto Lillian. "Why did you lie, Mrs. Davenport? Why would you tell people your daughter was mentally unstable instead of admitting she was paralyzed?" My mother was speechless, her face turning a pasty white. "I have seen the scans," Dr. Jenkins continued. "I have the records. There is no ambiguity. Serenity is permanently and profoundly disabled. And you," she said, pointing a finger at Brianna, "you just physically attacked a woman with no ability to defend herself. You tipped her out of her chair like a bag of trash." I didn't know," Brianna whispered, her arrogance finally crumbling. "You knew," I said from the floor. My voice was weak, but the words were sharp. "I told you, over and over. You just refused to listen." "She ruined my dress," Brianna muttered, retreating to her default complaint. "There is blood on my dress." Dr. Jenkins took a step toward Brianna, who flinched back. "You should be less concerned about your dress and more concerned with your impending legal troubles," Dr. Jenkins said, "because I saw exactly what you did, and I will be testifying." My father stepped forward then, putting on his smooth, deal-closing businessman face. "Now hold on. Let's not be hasty. This can all be handled internally. There is no need to involve the authorities. It was an unfortunate accident. A sisterly squabble." "Assault," Dr. Jenkins corrected him. "We can pay for any damages," my father said quickly. "Serenity is fine. We'll get her cleaned up. We'll buy you a new... whatever you want." He was trying to bribe her. He was trying to buy his way out of the truth, just as he always had. Dr. Jenkins stared at my father for a long, silent moment. Then she slowly shook her head. "You people make me physically ill," she said. "For 4 years, I have kept your family's secrets because of doctor-patient confidentiality. But that ends tonight, because tonight I witnessed a crime, and that gives me the legal and moral obligation to speak." She looked around the room, her gaze sweeping over Caleb cowering in the background, over the influencers who had mocked me, over the neighbors who had turned their backs. "You all think Serenity is the problem," she said. "You think she is the black sheep. You whisper about her. I have heard the rumors." She paused, letting the tension build. "Hey, do you want to know why she is in that chair?" "No," my mother pleaded. "Please, Sarah, don't. Do you want to know what really happened the night of the crash?" Dr. Jenkins asked the crowd. "Stop her," my father yelled, lunging toward Dr. Jenkins. But a large man, a guest I didn't recognize, stepped in front of him, blocking his path. The room was silent again, hanging on every word. The gossip was too delicious to ignore. Dr. Jenkins looked down at me, her eyes asking for permission. I gave a small, deliberate nod. "Tell them," I thought. "Burn it all to the ground." Dr. Jenkins stood in the center of the room like a prosecutor addressing a jury. 4 years ago, Serenity and Brianna Davenport were brought into my ER, she began. Their car had collided with an oak tree at over 60 miles an hour. Serenity was found in the driver's seat. Brianna was in the passenger seat. The guests nodded. This was the story they knew, the official version. Serenity was driving. Serenity crashed the car. That is what the police report says, Dr. Jenkins acknowledged, but the medical evidence tells a very different story. She walked over to the dessert table, turning to face the crowd. In a high-impact collision, she explained, the seatbelt leaves a distinct bruise. We call it seatbelt sign. It is a clear indicator of where a person was sitting. She pointed at Brianna. Brianna had a bruise running from her left shoulder down to her right hip. That is the mark of a driver. She then pointed to me, still lying on the floor. Serenity had a bruise running from her right shoulder down to her left hip. That is the mark of a passenger. A murmur spread through the crowd. People started whispering, putting the pieces together. "Wait," someone said aloud. "So Brianna was driving?" "Yes," Dr. Jenkins confirmed. "Brianna was driving the car." "That is not true!" Brianna shrieked. "She is lying! Serenity was driving. She has always been the bad driver." "We also ran toxicology reports that night," Dr. Jenkins continued, ignoring Brianna's hysterics. Serenity's blood alcohol content was 0. She was completely sober. She paused for dramatic effect. Brianna's blood alcohol content was 0.18, more than double the legal limit. She was blind drunk. My mother buried her face in her hands. My father looked like he was about to have a stroke, his face turning a blotchy, furious red. "So here is what actually happened," Dr. Jenkins said, laying out the ugly truth for everyone to see. Brianna was driving drunk. She lost control and crashed the car. She was mostly unharmed, just a few bruises. But Serenity's back was broken. I closed my eyes, the memory of that night flooding back, the smell of gasoline, the sound of twisting metal, the searing pain. And then, "Doctor," Jenkins said, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. The parents arrived. She fixed her gaze on Arthur and Lillian, who seemed to shrink under the weight of 200 pairs of eyes. "They didn't call 911 right away," she said. "They arrived at the scene first. They saw their golden girl, Brianna, was drunk off her mind. They knew she would go to jail. They knew it would be a scandal that would tarnish the Davenport name. So they made a choice." She took a deep breath. They pulled Serenity from the passenger seat. They dragged her with a shattered spine and put her behind the wheel. They moved Brianna into the passenger seat. They staged the entire scene to frame their other daughter. "Oh my God," a woman in the front row gasped. "Moving a person with a suspected spinal injury is the single most dangerous thing you can do," Dr. Jenkins said, her voice shaking with controlled fury. "But that isn't even the worst part." She walked closer to my parents. "The worst part," she said, "is the time. Police logs show the crash was reported by a neighbor at 11:45 p.m. The 911 call from your phone came in at 12:05 a.m. She held up 2 fingers. 20 minutes, she said. They waited 20 minutes to call for help. They spent 20 minutes moving bodies, wiping down the car, and getting their story straight, all while Serenity was bleeding internally, her spinal cord swelling and dying. Tears streamed down my face. This was the part I had never fully known. I knew they had moved me. I remembered the horrific sensation of being dragged, but I didn't know about the delay. If they had called immediately, Dr. Jenkins said, her voice cracking with suppressed rage, we could have administered high-dose steroids to reduce the swelling. We could have gotten her into surgery sooner. There's a 90% chance that Serenity would have walked again. The room erupted. It wasn't whispers now. It was outrage. People were shouting. "She is paralyzed because of you," Dr. Jenkins said, pointing directly at my parents. "Not because of the crash, because of the delay. You traded your daughter's legs for your other daughter's reputation. You monsters, Mrs. Gable." The neighbor, who had snubbed me, yelled at my mother. "Murderers!" someone else shouted. My father tried to speak. "You don't understand. We had to protect the family. Serenity is strong. We knew she could handle it." "Handle it?" I screamed from the floor, and the room fell silent again, all eyes on me. I lost everything. I sobbed. I lost my legs. I lost my life. And you let the world hate me for it. You let everyone believe I was a screw-up, a failure. Serenity, please, my mother wept. We love you. We did it for us, for the family. There is no family, I said, my voice cold. There is only Brianna. I looked at Brianna. She wasn't crying. She looked annoyed, like she was already calculating how to spin this disaster. Whatever, Brianna said, tossing her hair. It was 4 years ago. Can we please just move on? This is my engagement party. She turned to Caleb. Caleb, tell them to stop. Tell them it doesn't matter. Caleb was standing perfectly still. He was looking at Brianna, but it was like he was seeing her for the first time. He looked at her, then he looked at me, broken on the floor. The spell was finally broken. Dr. Jenkins knelt beside me again and took my hand. The ambulance is here, she said softly. I can hear the sirens. I listened, and I heard them too. The wail of the sirens growing closer and closer. It was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. Thank you, I whispered to her. I should have done this a long time ago, she said. I am so sorry I waited. I looked out at the faces in the crowd. They weren't looking at me with pity anymore. They were looking at me with horror and at my family with utter contempt. The truth was out. The aesthetic was ruined. And as the paramedics rushed through the double doors with a stretcher, I knew that the Davenport dynasty had just ended. Brianna stood all alone in her white dress, a wide circle of empty space around her, as if she were contagious. For the first time in my life, she was the one who was isolated, not me. The paramedics were all business. They didn't care about the opulent party or my weeping mother. They cared about my spine. They fitted a collar around my neck and carefully slid a backboard underneath me. Lift on 3, the lead paramedic called out. 1, 2, 3. As they lifted me onto the stretcher, my perspective of the room shifted. I could see the wreckage of the champagne tower, the glittering shards of glass on the marble. I saw the guests huddled in small, shocked groups, whispering furiously. They weren't looking at Brianna with admiration anymore. They were looking at her like she was a 5-car pile up. Brianna was frantic, grabbing at Caleb's arm. Caleb, baby, listen to me, she pleaded, her voice high and shrill. That doctor is insane. She is lying. You know I would never do that. I love Serenity. Caleb just stared at her hand on his arm as if it were a venomous snake. He slowly peeled her fingers off his jacket. You pushed her, Brianna, Caleb said, his voice completely flat. I watched you. You pushed her out of her chair. She was being difficult, Brianna shrieked. She wouldn't stand up for the photo. She is paralyzed, Caleb shouted back the first time I had ever heard him raise his voice. She can't stand up, and you knew. You knew all along that you were the one driving that car. No, Brianna cried. Mom, tell him. My mother started to step in. Caleb, sweetie, let's just go into the private room and... Caleb reached into his pocket. He didn't pull out a phone. He took off the expensive watch Brianna had given him as an engagement present and placed it on a nearby table. Then he looked at her left hand, at the massive diamond sparkling on her finger. Give it back, he said. What? Brianna gasped. The ring, Caleb said coldly. Give it back. We're done. You can't do this to me, she shrieked. Everyone is watching. The photographer is right there. I don't care, Caleb said. I am not marrying a monster, and I am not marrying into a family of liars. Brianna let out a sob of pure rage. She ripped the ring from her finger and hurled it at him. It bounced off his chest and skittered across the floor. Caleb didn't even look at it. He just turned his back and walked away, heading straight for the exit without a single glance back. At that moment, the double doors flew open again. This time, it was police officers. Who is in charge here? A sergeant boomed. Dr. Jenkins stepped forward. I am. I made the call, she said. Dr. Sarah Jenkins. I am here to report an assault on a disabled individual and to report felony fraud and evidence tampering regarding a vehicular accident 4 years prior. My father, Arthur, panicked. He scrambled toward the officers. Officers, This is all a terrible misunderstanding. My daughter simply fell. It was an accident. Sir, step back, the sergeant ordered. She fell, my father insisted. He looked at me on the stretcher, his eyes wide with terror. He rushed over to me, leaning in close so the police couldn't hear. Serenity, he whispered, his breath thick with scotch. Serenity, listen to me. You have to tell them you fell. If you tell them Brianna pushed you, she will go to jail. Do you understand me? You will ruin this family. Just say you slipped. I looked at my father, the man who had bought me a video game I didn't want, the man who had called me selfish for being in a wheelchair, the man who had dragged my broken body from a car wreck to save his favorite child. Serenity, please, he begged, for the family. I looked him right in the eye. Officer, I called out, my voice raspy but clear. The sergeant walked over. Yes, miss? I didn't fall, I said, loud enough for my father to hear every word. My sister pushed me, and my father is currently attempting to intimidate a witness. My father's face went white. He recoiled as if I had struck him. Cuff him, the sergeant ordered. I watched as two officers grabbed my father's arms. I watched as they approached Brianna, who was still screaming about her engagement ring, and put her in handcuffs as well. My mother stood alone, trembling. She looked at me, her lips forming a single word. Why? I didn't answer. The paramedics started wheeling me out of the ballroom. The last thing I saw was the red and blue flash of police lights reflecting off the spilled champagne and broken glass. The party was over. The silence was finally broken. The following weeks were a whirlwind of hospitals and law offices. My shoulder was relocated, painful, but it would heal. The emotional wounds were a different story. But for the first time, I wasn't dealing with them alone. Dr. Jenkins visited me daily, and on her third visit, she brought a man with her. His name was Marcus Thorne. He was a personal injury attorney who specialized in medical cases, and he was a shark in a perfectly tailored suit. He didn't smile much, which I liked. This is a slam dunk, Serenity, Marcus told me, sitting beside my hospital bed. We have dozens of witnesses to the assault. We have Dr. Jenkins' unwavering testimony about the medical cover-up. And we have the police reopening the original crash investigation based on new evidence. My parents have the best lawyers money can buy, I said, a lifetime of conditioning making me nervous. They had money, Marcus corrected me with a sharp glint in his eye. Currently, their assets are frozen, and I am going to make sure they remain that way. He opened his sleek briefcase and pulled out a thick document. Here's the situation. Your father is facing charges for obstruction of justice and evidence tampering. Your sister is facing assault and battery, on top of the original DUI charge. Your mother is being investigated as an accomplice. He paused. They want to make a deal. They're terrified of prison. What kind of deal? I asked. They're offering you $200,000 to drop the civil suit, he said. I let out a bitter, hollow laugh. $200,000? That barely covers my medical expenses for the past 4 years. Exactly, Marcus said. So here's my counteroffer. He handed me a sheet of paper. We are suing for pain and suffering, emotional distress, loss of earnings, past and future medical care, and significant punitive damages. We are demanding a total settlement of $950,000 in cash. My eyes widened. They don't have that kind of liquid cash. My father invests everything in his hotel projects. I know, Marcus said, a small, dangerous smile touching his lips. Which brings us to the second part of the demand. He pointed to the next paragraph. To satisfy the settlement, the defendants will liquidate the following assets. 1. The summer estate in the Hamptons. 2. Their entire private investment portfolio. And 3. The 40-foot yacht, the Golden Girl. The yacht? I asked, a sense of disbelief warring with grim satisfaction. My father loves that boat more than he loves his own children. I know, Marcus said. That is why we're taking it. And if they refuse? Then we proceed to a public trial, Marcus said, and Dr. Jenkins takes the stand and tells a jury of 12 ordinary people how they let you lie paralyzed and bleeding for 20 minutes while they plotted to save their own skins. The jury will despise them, Serenity. They will award you millions. Your parents will likely die in prison. I looked at the document. It was a death warrant for their entire way of life. It would leave them with their primary residence, but strip them of every luxury, every symbol of their status. They would be ruined. They would be social pariahs. Do it, I said. The negotiation took place a week later in a sterile conference room. I sat in my wheelchair at the head of the long table. Marcus was at my right, Dr. Jenkins at my left. My parents and Brianna sat on the opposite side, a trio of ghosts. My father looked like he had aged 20 years. My mother wore no makeup, her face pale and drawn. Brianna just looked small and sullen. This is extortion. My father spat, glaring at the settlement papers. You're taking everything we've ever worked for. You're lucky we're not taking the house you sleep in, Marcus replied coolly. Sign the papers, Arthur, or get used to a 6-by-8-foot room. Serenity, my mother pleaded, her voice cracking. We're your family. How can you do this to us? We'll be ruined. We won't be able to show our faces at the club. You shouldn't have been showing your faces there in the first place, I said. You should have been at home, taking care of your daughter. I did take care of you, she cried. I fed you, I clothed you. You hid me, I countered. You shamed me, and you let Brianna break me, piece by piece, because she was the pretty one. I turned my gaze to Brianna. She was staring at the polished table. Brianna, I said. She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed. You're going to get probation, I told her. Marcus arranged it. You will have community service and a criminal record, but you're not going to jail. Brianna nodded slowly. Thanks, she whispered, the word laced with sarcasm. I didn't do it for you, I said flatly. I did it because I don't want to think about you ever again. If you were in jail, I would be obligated to think about you. I just want you gone. I want you to be someone else's problem. My father picked up the pen, his hand trembling. He looked at the clause about the yacht. He looked at the clause about the summer house. He looked at me one last time, a desperate final appeal. He was waiting for the old serenity to crack, for the quiet, submissive daughter to say, "It is okay, Daddy. You can keep the boat." I stared back at him, my gaze as hard and unyielding as the marble floor I had bled on. I didn't blink. He signed the papers. He slid them across the table. Marcus inspected the signatures. Done, he said. The funds will begin transferring tomorrow. My father stood up, a broken man. Are you happy now, Serenity? You've destroyed us. No, Dad, I said. I didn't destroy you. The truth did. I turned my wheelchair around and rolled out of the room. I didn't say goodbye. There was nothing left to say. 6 months later, the air smelled of chlorine and new beginnings. I sat by the edge of an Olympic-sized swimming pool. The water was a brilliant, shimmering blue under the massive skylights. The entire facility was beautiful. Wide automatic doors, smooth, gently sloping ramps everywhere, and specialized lifts to help people get into the water. It was perfect. I looked up at the large sign hanging over the entrance. The Jenkins Adaptive Therapy Center? Dr. Jenkins stood beside me, tears welling in her eyes. It was the first time I had ever seen her cry. You didn't have to name it after me, Serenity, she said, wiping her eyes. You saved my life, I said simply. Twice. Once on an operating table and once in that ballroom. This is your center as much as it is mine. It was your money, she laughed. It was their money, I corrected her. Now it is finally doing some good. The liquidation of my parents' assets had netted over $1 million. After setting up a trust for my own medical needs and paying Marcus's fees, there was a substantial amount left over. I didn't want a yacht. I didn't want a new house. I wanted a place where people like me wouldn't feel like a burden, like an afterthought. I watched as a young boy in a wheelchair rolled up to the pool's edge. He looked anxious. A therapist gently helped him transfer into the mechanical chairlift. Slowly, he was lowered into the warm, welcoming water. The moment the water took his weight, his entire expression changed. The pain and the heaviness in his face melted away. He broke into a huge grin. He splashed. He was free. A lump formed in my throat. That was what I wanted. I had heard things about my family. In a small, wealthy town, scandal travels faster than light. My parents had sold the mansion. They couldn't afford the property taxes. They now lived in a small 2-bedroom condo on the less fashionable side of town. They didn't go to the Marina Club anymore. The board had quietly asked for their resignation after the story broke. My mother, I heard, spent her days indoors, refusing to see anyone. My father was trying to launch a new business, but his reputation was toxic. No one would invest with him, and Brianna. The gossip mill said she was working. Her pool of wealthy suitors had evaporated overnight. The story of what she had done to me, amplified by Caleb, had gone viral in our social circles. No respectable man wanted to be associated with the girl who pushed her paralyzed sister. She was working as a hostess at a chain restaurant out by the interstate, the kind of place with a tacky uniform and an endless stream of rude customers. Part of me had an urge to go there. Part of me wanted to roll in, order a Diet Coke, and leave her a 1-cent tip. I wanted to see her face, but as I watched the little boy laughing in the pool, I realized I didn't care enough. Driving to that restaurant would take energy. Being angry took energy. Hating them took energy. I didn't have any more energy to waste on them. I had a center to run. I had a life to build. I rolled my chair over to the lift. "Ready, boss?" the therapist asked with a smile. "Ready," I said. I strapped myself in. The machine hummed to life. I felt myself being lifted up, then gently lowered. The warm water rose to meet me. It held me. I unbuckled the safety straps and floated, weightless. In the water, my legs weren't heavy. In the water, I wasn't the girl in the chair. I was just serenity. I did a slow backstroke toward the center of the pool and looked up at the vast glass ceiling. My father had been right about one thing. I had burned the family down. But looking around at this beautiful place, at the families finding joy, at the staff smiling as they worked, I knew I had made the right choice. Revenge only leaves ash and smoke. But justice? Justice can build something new. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and swam. End of story.